For decades, ordinary people have claimed they were taken by something not from this world. Their stories include missing time, medical examinations, and unexplained memories. Today, we examine 3 of the most documented alien abduction cases in history, and let the evidence speak for itself. On the night of September 19, 1961, Betty and Barney Hill were driving home through the White Mountains of New Hampshire after a vacation in Canada. The road was empty, the sky was clear, and nothing seemed unusual at first. Shortly after 10 p.m., Betty noticed a bright light moving strangely across the sky. At first, they assumed it was a star or an airplane, but the light began to change direction, moving erratically and silently. As they continued driving, the object appeared to follow them. Barney pulled the car over and looked through binoculars. What he later described would stay with him for the rest of his life. A large disc-shaped craft with rows of illuminated windows and figures visible inside. Moments later, the Hills heard a series of rapid beeping sounds. Then, everything went quiet. When they became fully aware again, they realized they had traveled more than 30 miles with no memory of how they got there. Nearly 2 hours of time were missing. In the days that followed, both Betty and Barney experienced intense anxiety, recurring nightmares, and unexplained physical marks on their bodies and clothing. Unable to make sense of what had happened, they eventually sought help from a psychiatrist specializing in hypnosis. Under separate hypnosis sessions, the Hills described remarkably similar memories. They recalled being taken aboard a craft by small humanoid beings subjected to medical examinations and shown unfamiliar star patterns. Betty even drew a star map that some researchers later claimed matched real star systems, though this remains heavily debated. Their story attracted national attention and became the first widely publicized alien abduction case in modern history. Scientists, psychologists, and skeptics argued that the experience could have been caused by stress, suggestion, or sleep-related phenomena. Supporters, however, pointed to the consistency of their accounts and the missing time as compelling evidence. More than 60 years later, the Hill case remains a cornerstone of UFO research, a story that continues to divide belief and skepticism, and one that helped shape how the world understands alleged alien encounters. On the evening of October 11, 1973, 2 shipyard workers, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, were fishing along the Pascagoula River in Mississippi. It was a quiet night, far from city lights, with nothing to suggest anything out of the ordinary. Suddenly, both men noticed a bright blue light descending through the trees. The air grew heavy and silent. According to their account, a large oval-shaped craft appeared only a few meters away, hovering above the ground. Hickson and Parker later described 3 strange beings emerging from the craft. Unlike the typical alien imagery, these entities appeared robotic, with wrinkled gray skin, claw-like hands, and no visible eyes. The creatures reportedly floated rather than walked. The men claimed they were lifted into the craft against their will and subjected to a brief examination. Parker said he was paralyzed with fear and fainted during parts of the experience. Hickson remained conscious and later described hearing mechanical sounds and seeing glowing panels inside the object. After the encounter ended, both men were left shaking and disoriented. Instead of going home, they immediately reported the incident to local police. Officers, unsure what to make of the story, secretly recorded the men while they were left alone in the interrogation room. Believing they were unobserved, Hickson and Parker continued expressing fear and confusion, a moment many investigators cite as evidence of their sincerity. Medical examinations found no clear explanation for their physical symptoms, but also no definitive proof of an abduction. Over the years, Hickson consistently maintained his story until his death. Parker initially avoided publicity, later confirming the account decades afterward. Skeptics argue the experience may have been a hallucination, stress reaction, or misinterpretation of natural phenomena. Supporters point to the immediate police report, consistent testimony, and recorded emotional reactions as signs that the men genuinely believed what they experienced. The Pascagoula incident remains one of the most compelling multi-witness abduction claims in American history. A case that continues to challenge simple explanations. In the summer of 1976, 4 close friends, Jack and Jim Weiner, Chuck Rack, and Charlie Foltz, traveled deep into the remote wilderness of northern Maine for a camping and fishing trip. The Allagash region was isolated, surrounded by dense forest and dark, silent lakes, far from any major towns or artificial light. One night, while fishing on Eagle Lake, the group noticed a bright white light hovering silently above the water. At first, they assumed it was a distant aircraft, but the light began to descend rapidly, growing larger and more intense. Alarmed, the men paddled frantically back toward shore, watching the light follow them from above. When they finally reached land, everything went dark. Hours later, the men awoke around a dying campfire, confused and unable to remember how they had returned to shore. Several hours of time were missing from their memory. Years later, disturbed by recurring dreams and unexplained anxiety, the men independently underwent hypnotic regression. During these sessions, all 4 described nearly identical memories. They recalled being taken aboard a craft, restrained on examination tables, and subjected to medical procedures by non-human entities with large eyes and thin bodies. Investigators noted the consistency between the accounts, even though the men were interviewed separately. In later years, the group voluntarily took polygraph tests, which reportedly indicated truthful responses, though the reliability of such tests remains debated among experts. What makes the Allagash case unusual is not just the encounter itself, but the number of witnesses who later described the same sequence of events in striking detail. 4 separate individuals, recalling the same environment, the same procedures, and the same entities, years after the incident. Whether these memories were shaped by the human mind or by something external remains impossible to prove. But the consistency of their accounts transformed a forgotten camping trip into one of the most debated wilderness encounters in modern history. A story that continues to unsettle researchers who study unexplained phenomena. There is little doubt that governments have withheld information from the public throughout history. And there is also little doubt that unexplained phenomena continue to occur around the world. The challenge is not deciding whether mysteries exist, but separating genuine cases from exaggeration, misinterpretation, and fiction. Somewhere between belief and skepticism lies the truth, and the search for it continues.